everybody, Marcy here, aka Princess Rainy Cloud, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk again about Sasquatch. In fact, that is one of my favorite subjects, so we're going to have a lot of fun. And as you could see in the little preview, that guy, that one character, looks kind of familiar, and you may recognize him, her, I'm not sure which, but you may recognize this creature from a thumbnail that I used on a previous video. So I can't wait to share that with you. I'm also going to share some additional footage of other creatures, and we're going to compare it, and we're going to talk about how uniquely different each one of them looks. And if you watched my last video, hopefully you were able to see what I was showing you, that big black female holding the baby. She is completely different looking as well. They all have very unique, they do look similar, but they all are so very unique. So I just want to get into that a little bit today. I really want to hear from you what you think. If you see something else in the footage that I am missing, I would love for you to point that out and let me know what you're finding. Because as I've been going back through these videos, I'm seeing things that I didn't realize I was looking at when I originally filmed it. So it is just a wealth of video information on these creatures. As I've mentioned over and over and over again, they are so hard to video or to get pictures of, but sometimes when you least expect it, you'll get something that is like so super clear that it just blows my mind, and I just can't decide what they look like because they look like so many different things. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is the guy in the photo. So, I'm going to go ahead and play the video for you, and you'll see him standing, and as I've mentioned before, I don't have a great camera. Most of these videos have been taken with just a zoom lens on my iPhone. Because it was close enough, I could get a pretty good shot of this one, but you'll see that it's just so bizarre. So let me play it, and then we'll go ahead and we'll talk about it. Okay, so on these videos, you can see that he's got those really big, dark, and I'm pretty certain it's the fur around the eyes, but he's got that very just distinctive bone structure. He looks kind of like he's got what he reminds me of. And I don't know, many of you watching may or may not remember this, but I do know that it's back on classic cartoons. But I see this guy and I think of Lion-O from the Thundercats. He looks like a cat. And my daughter and I were reviewing this footage, and I was showing this to her, and that's the first thing she said as well. She's like, he looks very cat-like. And you can see the dark around his eyes, and it looks like he almost has a mane. And then he's got that really kind of more long like more of a snout kind of nose. I don't know. It boggles my mind because as I watch these creatures, I have seen so many different variations of them. Some of them look just like an ape. Some of them look almost human. Some of them just look like that quintessential Sasquatch with they're just like they look like a mound of fur with that face. So I put together several different ones for you today. So this was the first one I wanted to look at. And then I want to know what you think. Please leave a comment below so that we can kind of talk about this. I'm very curious because the more I look at these creatures, the more I've seen of these creatures, the more confounded I am. I have gone through my mind trying to figure out what do they look like. And I've seen everything from cat type of features, ape type of features. One almost looked like had a kangaroo look to it. They look like they're a combination of everything. In fact, I remember one of the clips I had shown my daughter, she said it looked like like a giant marmot. So I am at a loss for what these things are. It's just so bizarre, but some of them look just like an ape, and some of them look somewhere in between ape and human. It's just so crazy. So let's look at the second set of videos. Now this one I recorded fairly early on after moving. I was putting together my office one day, and this one just blew my mind because it was actually a lot closer than it may seem in the video. And I just remember when I looked out the window, I saw something that didn't look right. And of course, by this point in time, I had already seen the other ones. And so immediately, the second I saw movement, I started looking, and you see that dark, they just kind of ooze out. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like they just emerge out of the bushes. And so I saw what looked like a dark shape kind of emerging because the sun was pretty bright this day, and I could see the way it was glistening on its hair at one point in time. But as I'm looking at this video, I realize I believe there are two different creatures in this video. So I'm going to play this, and then I want to talk a little bit about what these guys look like. Okay, so these, as you can see, they're very, very different from the last one that we looked at. The one thing that they do have in common is just kind of that eye, the way the shape around their eyes are. They kind of I've heard people describe them like when they've out run into them out in the wilderness. I remember this one researcher said that he saw this giant guy come running across the trail. He had really long hair, and he literally looked like he was wearing a pair of those wraparound Ray-Ban sunglasses. And that is exactly what they remind me of. They look like they're wearing sunglasses. But the one that Lion-O, we'll call him Lion-O, the first one, his are just like, they're kind of almost octagon shaped. And some of them are they're more triangular. It's just mind-boggling. But this one, you can see where one of them kind of has more of a cone to his head, and then he's got the really, distinctive brow. And then there's the other one that I believe he's more in front of him. He kind of comes out from nowhere, and you can just kind of see that, his hair, his forehead, and then at one point he just kind of oozes. He's like right there, and I was watching this just freaking out. In fact, I was just talking, going, oh dear God, what is this thing? What is in my woods? And I mean, I was getting really, really scared. And I remember when I was first telling my daughter about this, she said, aren't you glad that you're way up high? And I said, yes, but they're so big that, I mean, if they really wanted to get to me, they would have no problem climbing the building and, coming up on my balcony. But now that I've been around them, they don't scare me at all. But at the time, I was absolutely terrified when I saw these two characters. And it's hard to tell in the video because, like I said, I don't have the highest quality of video. And that is one of the things that I am really going to work on this year, is to try to upgrade to a better camera. But it's still, you can see it, and it was much closer. I had a very clear view of it from, just from my window, just with the naked eye. And I remember he just kind of stood there and we were staring at each other, and it almost seemed like he kind of nodded at me. I don't know, it might have been the movement of the brush around him, because sometimes it's hard to tell. They like to situate themselves like right with like leaves in, specific areas over their face, but you can see the facial structure come through. So sometimes the leaves that they kind of like disguise themselves with distort things a little bit, but I'm pretty certain on this, as because you can see the eyes kind of where he's down low. You can see his like gray skin. You can see where his hair starts. You can see his eyes like just peeking up and over the leaves. And I mean, it gives you the chills, because as I'm looking through these photos and this footage, as I mentioned, I'm seeing more of them, especially when I take a still. I'll take a still of the forest some days. I don't realize they're out there. And when I go back and I look at them, I will find their faces, like every once in a while, one, just blending in with the scenery, but you can distinctly see the face. So it just gives me the chills, because of the fact, when I think about all the times I've been out walking in the woods, how many people I know that are avid hunters, that are out all the time, especially living here in southern Arkansas. This is a hunter's paradise. People just, it's all about hiking. It's all about, even people that I know that like to long distance run, they run the trails. I mean, everybody spends a lot of time out in the woods, and it is really like sobering when you think about the fact that these creatures are just cruising around, and there are so many more of them than we even realize. So, all right. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this one. Okay, so it's almost kind of like we're having a Sasquatch beauty contest. Which one do you prefer? Which one do you like the best? So let's look at the next one. So this next one coming up is one that it's kind of hard to see. It's one of the very first ones that I had filmed, or I should say videotaped. And at first there were two together, and I think one of them is a male And then the other one, I'm pretty certain it's a very young one. This one you got to really watch very closely because you'll see the male and his hair is long. And then he looks like he's wearing wraparound sunglasses. But then in that same video sequence, I'm putting all the sequences together. You'll see that she comes up and she kind of has she looks more animal-like. He looks more like a man. He looks like a cross between a man and an ape, or I don't know. He almost looks like one of the guys. The first thing, actually, I have to say, the first thing I thought of when I saw this male is the dad from Duck Dynasty. It just looks like him. He's got the long hair, the beard, and then the sunglasses. I mean, I just had to laugh. So get a really close look at this, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. I'm seeing in the forest behind my house. So you can kind of see, at first he's turned one way, and it's almost like when he's turned to a certain angle, he looks more animalistic. And then when he turns around, you can see his eyes come, full, and it's just like these dark, it looks like sunglasses. And then you can see the shiny hair, and he kind of like, depending on how he moves, it's just, he goes from looking like an animal to looking like a human, and it's just very bizarre. And then you'll see her, she's got that shape of her head, and she's got that little nose that comes out, but she definitely looks like an animal. And you can see how she comes up and then she kind of turns her head. It is just bizarre. I mean, they're just so unique. And I have a few, I've mused about what they are, and we'll talk a little bit more about that once we're done looking at all these videos. So now this one is really, really great because this one is in profile, and there's a spot that's kind of out in the forest not too far from where I am, and it was just sitting there, just like sitting up against like a lot, just kind of resting, sitting on the ground, but it was leaning up against something. And I went down there and I looked in the woods to see what it was. And there's like a rock down there, and it almost looks like kind of like a sitting area, like somebody might put together, or where you could just kind of hang out, like people might sit in the woods and hang out or something. But it was just sitting there sunning itself. And at first, it was so clear to my visual that I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And so, when I zoomed in and I saw it, and I was like, wow. But you can see its profile. And this looks like a cross between an ape and a human. But it's just very, very dark. It's very black. And I've seen her again since then, and she's got a very strange kind of bulbous nose. Well, it's kind of hard to say because when she's completely, and I think it's a female, I'm pretty certain it's a female, but when she turns sideways, you can see the profile on it, and she's got like the brow, and her forehead's really smooth and just kind of like rounded. But then in one of the clips, when she kind of turned sideways, and I don't know, she felt like you know, maybe she got the feeling she was being watched, but she kind of, in that last clip, she kind of turns and looks at me. So let's look at this one and then let's talk about it. But again, I want to know what you think about the one that looks like the guy from Duck Dynasty. Am I right or am I right? I mean, can you see what I'm seeing? And please let me know. And if you have any questions or, just, I don't know, maybe ask me questions of something I haven't covered, just leave me a comment. But let's look at this one and then we'll talk a little bit about it. There were a couple of them there. You see that first one? Oh wow. It's weird. There we go. Can't help but see the, oh my gosh, total ape face. Get this face. Oh wow. Oh my gosh, there we go. Oh wow. Oh my goodness. Turned its head. Wow. That's amazing. Okay, so as you can see, this one it almost has a very human look to it, but the way it's just sitting there so relaxed, and it's just amazing because this one's just kicking back and sunning and resting and there for a while. It looks like she's possibly got her eyes closed, but then she kind of turns and looks, and you can kind of see the nose gets a little bit more bulbous as she turns towards me. But when she's perfectly to the side, it looks very like sharp. You can see the brow bone. You can see the way the mouth comes, the lips, and the really smooth kind of domed shaped forehead. But she's very, very dark. She's very black as well. I've seen her again and I have footage. I just have to go through and find it. But she has she's got a very distinctive bulbous nose and just this very interesting face. It just blows my mind. So I want to know if y'all are seeing what I'm seeing. What do you think? Take your time and really look and just allow yourself to just kind of focus on it, and I think you will see it, because these particular pieces of footage are some of the clearer ones. They are much easier to see. If you're watching these videos, say on your cell phone, you'll probably be able to see it better than you would watching it on your TV. In fact, you know what? I'm going to throw one more clip sequence in, because this one is crazy. And I hadn't planned on putting this guy in, but as I was reviewing the other ones, I came across him, and he's just amazing. You can see his face clear as day in between two trees. So let's watch him, and he looks like an ape, but he looks like something from a movie. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. So let's watch this clip. you can see his face, you can see his eyes, you can see his little head, and it's right in between those two trees. And you'll notice that, I mean, he's just looking at me, and I think he saw me videoing him, and I got a little worried because I try really hard to be very, very careful when I'm, recording them so that they don't get freaked out and don't want to come back. I did say that I wanted to just kind of hypothesize a little bit about what I think they might be. And while I'm convinced that they are some sort of a primate, especially considering all the footprint casts that have been collected that show, it's an ape type of a foot with the mid-tarsal break. Getting back to the various looks that these creatures have, I'm very curious to know what you think that they might be. And one of the things that I've actually kind of thought about is it makes me wonder if they aren't some sort of a subfossil lemur. And the reason I say that is because of the one that looks so cat-like, and then also the other one that looked kind of like she's something between an ape and a mole. I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. And there's one that I'm looking for the footage of it. I have so many videos that I have to really sort through. But he has these really crazy wild eyes, and my next video I'll highlight him so that you can see what I'm talking about. But he's got those lemur eyes, and he's also one that has like these kind of crazy ears that are up on the top and the sides of his head. And I'm convinced that the Dogman and the Sasquatch, and I think they're all one and the same. They look like a lemur to me. They have that lemur-esque look, but gigantic. So I did a little bit of research. At one point in time, there's several different types, but they are believed to have only been in Madagascar, and even the largest one that they have on record was only the size of a male gorilla. So I know it was around 5 to 6 feet tall. And then they always depict the way they walk kind of more like on all fours, but they have those really flat feet. I don't know. I don't know. I know at one point in time there were giant baboons that were hunted to extinction. So it's just crazy. So I want to know what you think. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you're able to see what I am seeing. I think once I get a much better camera, the video, it's going to go up quite a notch. But yeah, for right now, I mean, this is about as good as it's going to get. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Again, let me know what you think. If you like this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Thank you again for watching. Love all y'all. Oh, so glad to have you with me. I'm having such a good time sharing this, and now that I've got them all sorted out, hopefully I can get them out more and more for you. And I'll just go, as I go through my footage, I will share my Sasquatch photos, videos with you. Thanks again for watching. Have a good one. Take care, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.